This is Bill Russo. Hi, everybody. I'm in Bridgewater. Bridgewater, the town that gave its name to a triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle. It was first described by Loren Coleman in the 1970s in his landmark book, Mysterious America. And it was first filmed by Aaron Cadieux and Manny Familari in the iconic 2013 documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle. Yes, I am in Bridgewater, and I am in the most deadly place in the entire 200 square miles of southeastern Massachusetts that make up the triangle. The most deadly place in the triangle is a small lake that straddles the town lines of Bridgewater and Rainham, also known as Raynham. It is called Lake Nippanicket, but far better known as the Nip, the Deadly Nip. So named because nearly every summer, one or more people would drown in this peaceful little lake. They would drown even though the average depth of the Nip is the exact length of a yardstick. Yes, it is only 3 feet deep on average. And at its greatest depth, most any player in the National Basketball Association could walk all the way across the lake without getting his chin wet. Yes, the greatest depth in the Deadly Nip is only 6 feet. So how could this gentle little pond have become the most deadly place in the Bridgewater Triangle? And why is it now the most deserted place in the Bridgewater Triangle? Back in the 1990s, on any warm summer day, there'd be hundreds of people at the Nip, lying on the sandy beach or wading in the water. The Nip is so shallow that the average person can walk halfway across the pond before the water reaches their shoulders. Halfway across the pond. My dog Samantha and I used to swim in the Nip 3 or 4 times a week during the warm season. I guess I'm one of the few people left who actually swam in the Nip before it was forever closed to swimming because of all of the drownings. I wondered how many people would be in the Nip now in the 2020s. So on August 17th of 2021, I went back to the Nip. It was a warm summer day with the temperature a comfortable 82 degrees, perfect beach weather. But when I arrived at the Nip at 1 in the afternoon, there were just 2 cars in the parking lot. One of the cars belonged to a lady who sat all by herself on a solitary bench in a little grassy area in front of the boat launching ramp. She reclined quietly, watching the gentle waves coming slowly from the island and lapping at the concrete of the ramp. The other car belonged to a guy who must have known that at one time hundreds of people came to the Nip on a warm summer day. He had set up a cooler full of cold sodas that he was selling on the honor system. I think I was his only customer that hot afternoon. In 1995, he would have sold 4 or 5 cases of soda. But in 2021, it was one sale only for the hopeful entrepreneur. Back around the turn of the century, my dog Sammy and I spent many hours splashing around in the Nip. It was Sammy's pond of choice. We had a few other swimming spots, one town over in Raynham, But Sam preferred the nip in Bridgewater. We never encountered a problem or were witness to any drownings. But each year during the 1990s in the summer, one or more persons would somehow manage to drown in this strange little pond that's not much deeper than a bathtub. And even in winter, the nip was dangerous. People would fall through the ice no matter how thick and drown. How could this gentle, shallow pond be guilty of sending so many victims to a watery grave? I have two possible answers. One, there must be hidden deep channels in the lake. Perhaps the channels shift from time to time so that nobody knows exactly where they are. The person could be wading in water scarcely equal to a yardstick before making a fatal step into a swift-running channel that might be 20 feet deep. Another possibility, the lake was cursed by the Native Americans who were slaughtered by the invading Europeans from the Plymouth colony. This is a theory subscribed to by many people who have studied the lore of the Wampanoag tribe, which was responsible for saving the lives of the 1620 Europeans at what is now called Plymouth. As a reward, a generation later, most of them were killed or sold off as slaves. Though I suspect that number one, the channels, deep channels, is the reason, it's possible that both answers are correct because the nip is, after all, right in the beating heart of the Bridgewater Triangle. In the 2 decades or so since the sandy beach at the nip was covered with a layer of jagged rocks and swimming was banned, there have been 0 deaths. In the years since the nip was closed to swimming, the beach has disappeared under a stubby growth of thick brush and small trees. The rocks that covered the sand are barely visible now. They have nearly vanished after some 2 decades of unchecked growth by the ever-expanding jungle-like brush. There are a few people who come to the nip during the day in the 2020s, but even fewer at night because there have been multiple reports of UFOs floating slowly over the pond. But perhaps the scariest tale of all involves the spooky island far across the pond. People who walk out on the boat ramp in the dark of night have reported strange feelings that they are being watched. Others say that they see strange monkey-like creatures creeping around on the island. And still others have seen fires, spectral fires on the island, large fires like bonfires. But when a few brave people take a boat out and they go to the island to investigate, they find that when they step from the boat onto the thickly wooded island, there are no fires. The Nip was the only public swimming area in the entire town of Bridgewater. That being the case, you might think that in the heat of July or August, people of the 2020s would be tempted to test the warm waters of the mild-looking pond. But no, it is not so. As shown in these pictures from August 2021, the deadliest location in the Bridgewater Triangle is now also the most deserted. Since the Nip has been closed to swimming, there has not been a single drowning death. Not a single drowning death of a swimmer in the summer, and in winter, not one person has fallen through the ice and drowned. The Nip. It was once the most deadly part of the Bridgewater Triangle, and if it is ever reopened, I suspect that it will quickly reclaim its title.
This has been the deadliest place in the Bridgewater Triangle. It was written especially for short story theatre and YouTube, by Bill Russo. Bill, who was featured in the documentary film, The Bridgewater Triangle, lived for many years at the edge of the Hockomock Swamp. Bill and his dog, Samantha, a gentle mix of Rottweiler and Shepherd, spent many summer days swimming in the Nip during the 1990s. This report was made toward the end of August in 2021, when Bill, who now lives in tropical South Florida, went back to the Bridgewater Triangle, to revisit a place that may indeed be regarded as the deadliest location in the Bridgewater Triangle. This is Basil Nightingale speaking for Short Story Theatre. Please join us again real soon. Won't you?